So we've talked about fair use before, and we're kind of talking about it again. And I think it's because, we need to address the elephant in the room, which is the gray area in determining if it's fair use or not. It's very subjective. So you could dot your I's and cross your T's and think that you're well and safe. However, if a judge looks at it from a different point of view or analyzes it in a different way, you may find yourself on the wrong end of the law. So, understanding how the many ways that a judge might slice and dice and look at fair use can help prevent, you from running afoul of this. So, one of the first things, there's four main factors that they look at. So, first of all, they look at purpose and character of the use. So, commercial uses are less likely to be considered fair. So, if you're using it to make money off of it, it's probably not going to be considered fair. So, consider that, if you're using somebody else's work and you're wanting to put money in your own pocket, that is going to probably not be considered fair use. So, you could potentially use transformative uses where the original material is repurposed or significantly alter. It may be more likely to qualify in that way, but it may not be guaranteed. Again, it's going to be very subjective to the judge reviewing a case. So transformative is not a clear-cut definition. It remains a gray area, so you have to be careful on that. The nature of the work, so nonfiction works such as factual or scientific content will likely fall under fair use, where if you're using information from highly creative works like novels, films, music, typically have higher protections. But again, not always clear cut. And then there's also the amount of sustainability. So examples, using small excerpts of a work is more likely to be considered fair use. Although it can infringe on the heart of the work. So if it's a really important excerpt from the work, even if it's small, it could, run afoul of a judge. But it's really hard. So how do you define the heart of a work? Again, you're talking about really, really subjective language here. So you really have to be cautious and careful. The fourth key factor is the effect on the market value. So, for example, if an unauthorized use harms the potential market for the original work or its derivatives, it's less likely to qualify as fair use. So here again, you run into analyzing markets can be very, very speculative, and sometimes you can slice and dice numbers to show things one way or another way. So when you can actually lead disputes about what is harmful and what constitutes harm, so it can get a little bizarre there. So these are some really gray areas. Some notable gray areas, like I looked up a couple of examples. So parody versus satire. Okay, so parodies can be protected and can fall under fair use. While a parody usually mimics a work to criticize it, it is more often protected under fair use. Satire, which uses a work to critique unrelated subjects, may not always receive the same protections. So, for example, Supreme Court ruled in Campbell versus Acuff Rose Music Incorporation that Two Live Crew's parody of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman was fair use because it directly commented on the original work. So it was a parody. in internet and digital media. So you get a lot of sharing, remixing, like our meme culture definitely is kind of complicating fair use for sure. Um, so you get a lot of cases, for example, especially YouTube, on what constitutes transformative use. So, cases, let's see, we have Lens versus Universal Music Corporation, explored whether a user's posting a video containing a brief use of a Prince song constituted fair use. Anybody who's ever included any kind of music into YouTube knows that if you use copyrighted music, it can be flagged, and the person who owns the copyright can actually deny that use, or you can get in big trouble for it. Your site could even get shut down. So definitely be careful when using music in your content. Educational and research uses. Educational institutions often rely on fair use for instructional purposes, but this area can be just as complex. For example, copying whole textbooks or course materials for distribution to students can cross the line from infringement, even if used for educational purposes. So think, if you are copying a textbook, the students are not purchasing the textbook, that's an effect on the market value of that textbook. I get it. Textbooks are ridiculously expensive, but that's why you have to buy your own textbook, and they can't provide, a digital copy of it. So just something to consider. Those are the gray areas.